I really love Florida and very beautiful lake.
Yeah, it's very beautiful with a lot of bugs and insects. Yeah, that's just part of the whole welcome package. Yes.
I see many iguanas and probably alligators.
Oh
too,
yes,
right?
yeah, a lot of swamp and wildlife. Yeah, yeah, very much.
So okay, this is part of our Florida experience.
The experience, yes.
Okay, so today I really want to ask you about actually I think you already talked in your YouTube video, and
Yes.
many Japanese people I think watched. Your YouTube is mainly focused for Japanese people, right?
Yes.
And I'm so glad because I'm doing this my YouTube channel. One of the reasons I'm here is to connect conservative people or people with common sense, to connect people internationally, because we have many issues similar happening in my country and your country, and you're doing the same thing. And it's very effective and it's very funny. That's what I like about your videos. So could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay. Konnichiwa, minasan, Kyou desu. I run a YouTube channel called Brooklyn Tokyo with my best friend, which we do reaction videos to many styles of Japanese content, whether that's music, comedy, anything emotional, or sometimes politics. But we do touch on politics every so often when a certain topic comes up, or sometimes people want us to discuss about a certain topic. So anything relating to Japan, we talk about or react to. Yeah.
Yes. And recently I watched Shimura Ken. It was very funny.
Very.
I remember I used to watch the comedy when I was little. I was not allowed to watch TVs because TV brainwashes us. But Shimura Ken's comedy was one of the few that I was allowed to actually watch.
Right. He's very funny. He's very funny. Rest in peace to him, but like his comedy is like, it's not too much, it's just like perfect timing. His just how he forms his scripts and his actor is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and look back to those old comedies, they are far from political correctness.
Yes.
And it's still funny, and it's like a part of culture, and we say but not to just hurt people, but it's like a part of, how should I explain? It's just a part of culture, you know? And we are not to offend anybody, and it was okay. But media started to pick up those things. So it kind of became problem. That's what I think. Right.
And I believe the more of this, like the left narrative or more of the socialist communists, they try to infiltrate every style of industry. So anything that's, I guess, free from criticism or control, they try to control. And comedy, if a country or a culture controls comedy, then you know something's wrong, because that's one of the most freest forms of entertainment. You know, you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, because people don't understand it's a joke. So when you see there's a certain people trying to control it, then you understand, okay, something's wrong, because it's supposed to be taken funny. It's not supposed to be taken literally, or, you know, most people are smart enough to know, okay, he doesn't really mean that. It's just for a joke, you know? So, yes.
So, I would like to move on to the things that you actually, I was very, what should I say? Okay, I was surprised to find out that in Japan, there are a couple organizations claiming that Black Lives Matter in Japan, you know? And if you look into Twitter, there are many BLM accounts in Japanese. And I was surprised, and I kind of noticed that they are trying to make it something that's not really a problem, but to divide people, you know? Could you please explaining in your thought what's happening in regards to those movements, like what happened last year, or you said like 2014, 2015, that's why even you noticed the movement, right?
Yes. What I found with this organization, BLM, its founders admitted that they're Marxists, and they teach Marxist doctrines and communism. They want communism, socialism. So behind it is a system that once tried to take over the world before, with, you know, Soviet Russia or communist China. And I believe it's a way to change society, to put in a new regime or a new kind of government. So with BLM, I think because America is so influential, a lot of our problems we actually influence the rest of the world with. So with BLM, because America was screaming BLM so much, I think other countries started to adopt that same narrative, even if that narrative may not necessarily relate to the people living there, because BLM, I mean, Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Japan at all. But I do believe because of its origin, its background, communist regime, to change society, I believe there are people in power, like certain governments or organizations. They want to use this movement to install new laws or new style of just living. So I think it's not really about Black Lives Matter, but more about the agenda behind it. However, I do believe Black Lives Matter has helped to divide more people. I think in America, it's made Americans more aware of race, even though there were polls saying that originally before, Americans thought that racism was actually leaving the country. But since Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and everything that's happened since then, it's causing more division and more stirring more hate towards people. But I think it's more of just a way to promote propaganda, to divide people and to conquer people. So I believe Black Lives Matter does do destruction, but I think it's more of the people behind it running it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, what would you how would you explain to Japanese people, because Japanese people, like if we were told like we are being very discriminatory against black people, like Japanese would say, oh, we like to say "sumimasen."
Right.
We have not done anything, like we just wanted to apologize. That makes it even more difficult to understand what's really happening, because media will cut those parts and then use it. Actually something happened. What would you see that's happening? The people who claim that they had experience being discriminated against in Japan. Like what do you see those people?
Do I believe those people are being discriminated against?
Yeah. But what do you think what's happening in Japan? Because you've been to Japan too, right?
So this. One thing I will say, I don't think Japan is a racist country at all. I think because of Japan's history, they're very isolated from the rest of the world, and they may be just more ignorant to maybe outside issues, because Japan seems to be a very boxed-in country. So I don't believe Japan is racist. I think for Japanese, they mainly see foreigners as gaikokujin. It's not hakujin or kokujin. It's more, you're just not Japanese. So when they get accused of racism, I think it's because it's less. I think it's more because they may not know. It's not because, oh, I hate black people that I'm gonna do this. It's more of like, okay, we don't like foreigners because either foreigners don't know Japanese, and I know many Japanese are. If you don't know Japanese, it's very nervous for them to communicate with you. Just part of the culture of communication. You may not know the cultural rules and the societal rules. So dealing with a foreigner may be a little bit more troubling. I don't see that as racist. I just see that as, that's just natural what people do. Things that are not familiar to you, you're not really going to try to connect with this much. But however, when it comes to, BLM accusing Japan of racism, I don't think Japan has any kind of thing against black people. I think it's more of like, when it comes to politics, I know Japan really doesn't like, typically the Japanese person doesn't like talking about politics. It's a very decisive subject. And I know a common thing with Japan is to keep the harmony with people. I think if Japan wants to clear its image up, it needs to address these topics and understand that running away or not talking about it is going to worsenly affect them or their image, because they'll give the narrative that they are racist, and they're like, oh, sumimasen, I'm so sorry, we don't mean to be that. But it's like, you're admitting to being racist when you're actually not. It's just that it's different than America, where we had a racist background. We had tension between whites and blacks. In Japan, it's more of just, you're not a foreigner. I mean, you're not Japanese. So I don't think the BLM narrative that there's some kind of system trying to hurt black people, I don't think it's the same in Japan at all. No.
I think they are looking for a chance to make it more bigger movement.
Yes.
And they have not seen this opportunity yet in Japan. That's what I see. Actually, I live in Okinawa, and so I'm originally from Okinawa, and I still live in Okinawa. And there are American bases, so many local girls like American people.
Yes.
And especially, actually, there are many girls who goes after black people.
Yes.
Like they are, like they like hip hop, and they have this cool image.
A lot of Okinawa gene. Yep.
They want to date.
Yes. So.
It's totally opposite, So like what is really happening and what being told by media, it's so different.
Yes.
You know, it's like so. And one of the things I wanted to ask you more about was that in your video you were talking about you used to hate white people,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you kind of had the opportunity to change
Yes.
your view.
Yes.
Could you explain like what happened? Why you hated white people,
Right.
and then why you don't hate white people
Right.
now?
Right. So basically what happened was that I come from a very pro-black family. My dad at the time and a lot of my family members are either part of the Nation of Islam or Rastafarian, and those religious faiths have very anti-white sentiments.
So religion is something related to
Right.
pro-blacks.
Right. A lot of pro-blacks are either they believe in Black Israelites. I believe that's the name of the organization. The 5% Nation or the Nation of Islam or Rastafarianism, which are basically a lot of faiths that a lot of Black Americans believe or Black Caribbeans believe, and they have very anti-white sentiments in what they believe in. But my family mainly was Christian, but a lot of those talking points were throughout my family. How white men are evil. They've done so much damage to the world and all of that stuff. And for me, growing up, thankfully, I've always been like a free thinker, and I've always, I liked everybody. It didn't matter if you were white, black, Asian. To me, if you were cool, I liked you. But during 2015, when the Black Lives Matter movement started coming up, a lot of those black talking points were being hammered on everybody on social media, from my family, how white people were evil. And suddenly over time, it's like, you started believing that because you see it all over the place. Your friends are saying it, your family's saying it, social media is telling you it. So you're like, this must be true. So eventually I started having like anti-white sentiments. I started saying like every white person is blessed. They have a better life than me. They think they're better than me. Like I would look at a white person and automatically judge them just because based on their skin color, something that Americans were taught not to do during the civil rights era. And basically, long story short, it made me very bitter inside because I started hating people, and I'm like, this is a problem. So the first thing I did was went to my pastor, and I was just telling him about it, and he basically told me that, it's not good to hate anybody. God created everyone equal. Everyone has, messed up or done evil. No one's perfect. So I couldn't see myself better than anybody. And then the second thing that happened was actually online. Ben Shapiro, a big political commentator, I found him online. And I started watching his debates and his podcast show, and a lot of the talking points he made sense to me because I'm very much a person that likes to believe stuff based on facts and not my own opinion. So just hearing him led me to other political voices like Larry Elder, Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell. I love his books, and just from reading and just learning the truth, I'm like, man, this whole leftist dogma thing is a lie. So that's kind of how I kind of woke up and became a politically aware as I am now.
So you took a red pill.
Major red pill. Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow at first, but I got it down. Yeah.
For Japanese people, it's interesting to hear what you're saying because when we think about America, it's like America. Like McDonald's, hamburger.
Right.
Soda.
Is that right?
Or
Super size me.
Yeah, they speak English. Like Washington D.C., New York. But I've been traveling in the United States for like maybe half a year. This since the election. So I learned that it's not just America. Like there are many people, like community, or it's not just black people or white people. There are many like communities or religion, or what should I say, like they have different culture. So I think what you're just explaining, how you were raised when you were little, it's the culture, one culture in America. It's not the whole, right? Could you please teach me a little bit more about like black culture? Or it's not a black culture, I know. Like there are many culture too, and they have different dialect, and could you please what should we know to understand America?
I think America had a lot of founding principles that everyone can come here, have the pursuit of happiness, live the life they want. But I think with that, when you have a mixture of so many different races and people, you need to be unified under one belief system, because it's really about belief. If we have a whole bunch of people who live in the same community, who have a different view of the world or don't agree on certain principles, there's going to be division, because it's not really about skin color, it's about what you believe in. Because even with black people, there's Caribbean blacks, there's African blacks, there's American blacks, and even in those groups, we don't even like each other as much. Like a lot of Caribbean and African blacks will tell you black Americans are lazy or they're ambitious or whatever. Or
Oh wait, so black Americans and Caribbean Americans are different?
we also have different cultures, yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'm American and Caribbean, so I know a little bit of both. But just showing you that even if you are the same skin color, like just having a different culture, people may not like you. So, for example, there's of course, there's a beef with different kinds of Asians, with Koreans and Japanese, even with whites. The Scottish don't like the English. There's always been beef between even races themselves. I think for America, what kept us together was the same values and the same worldviews on life. And I think right now those worldviews are being challenged by the radical left, and that's what's causing more division. And of course, we know with communism, how it pretty much it tells a group of people you're being oppressed. Either you're too rich, you're a male, you're either gay, you're straight, we're divided on those lines. Like it's white against black, it's poor against rich, it's you believe in God, you don't believe in God. It's like they're constantly trying to divide us. And I think in America, it's great that we are able to be the melting pot and we can have a sense of harmony what we had so far. But I think that if we don't share at least some core values and same worldviews, there's no way we can function as a society, because we need to be on the same path or same thinking pattern to function as a society. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
So there are many cultures.
Yes.
But they are all united under one belief.
Right.
That's
one belief.
The fundamental
of America. Yeah.
Of America.
Exactly.
I see. And during my coverage last year, I went to Washington D.C. or Portland, many dangerous
Portland,
places.
yes. Oh yes.
And I was kind of shocked how America is no longer a country of freedom. I'm afraid to say so, but that's what I have experienced too in social media. Like I'm Japanese and I'm seeing what's really happening, and I just report as it is. But like YouTube, it's famous, but even me talking in Japanese about American politics or what's happening, I'll be cancelled. And I have an experience in Hawaii. It was like 5 years ago. I was invited to talk about what's happening in Okinawa, because we have huge leftist movement try to get rid of American bases. Because they are pro CCP. They wanted to make a good condition for CCP to invade Okinawa. So the local people in Hawaii, there are many people migrated from Okinawa, so they are worried about their home country. So I was invited to talk. But then when the organizer was threatened to cancel my speech, because according to them, I'm a racist.
That's the go-to. You're racist. Yeah.
Yes. And when I started to talk on the podium, there was women and men suddenly stood up and then said, "You gotta speak in English," because I was asked to speak in Japanese. I was still speaking in Japanese, but they said, like, "You're racist. You're trying to speak in Japanese because you do not want us to understand." You know what I mean? Like, so
they called you racist to Japanese people.
Yes, so they were basically saying like me talking in Japanese is discriminatory against them because they cannot understand Japanese. They wanted to understand me so that they can attack me more. You know? So that was very interesting experience. And I asked them, I thought America is a country of freedom. Like, why don't you let me speak?
Right.
When I started to argue, I didn't start, but the whole crowd was saying, "Go out, go out!" You know, so they have to. They were taken outside, so it was very experienced. But that was when I learned something is strength in America.
Mm.
And here we are now, and I'm like witnessing America is falling apart.
Yes.
And I'm very
sadly.
worried because whatever happens in America directly affects rest of the world,
Yes.
especially Japan too.
Yes.
And as a young opinion leader, what would you see happening in your country now?
Well, I think a lot of people compare America to Rome, is that Rome wasn't defeated by outside power but fell from the inside, because Rome was a powerful military state and America is a very powerful military state. I think the massive division we have culturally with different races, but not only that, the cultural breakdown of the family, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what is the duties of, what is the purpose of people, a lot of different religious beliefs. So we don't know what to believe and or what is true, what is not true. So the very foundation, the building blocks of a society are being attacked. I think America's enemies know that they can't attack us directly. So what they would do is they help promote propaganda to destroy the social fabric. And again, once you attack the founding principles of how to make a country run, the country is on its way to destruction. So I would say America right now. I've also heard there's also a common theme that the height of a country's power lasts about 250 years. And they say we've either reached 250 years or we're about to reach it. So they say pretty much America is about to finish her run as the world superpower. But I also, like you said, believe that whatever affects America affects the world. And I think that many of other countries who have interest in, dominating the world, like China, for example, seeing America fall is a plus for them, because now that's like one big hindrance away from them achieving their goal. So I think that if America falls, we'll definitely see a fight for power with other countries. But I also think that we won't be the same country again. I think we'll be so divided that America will lose her strength. But a lot of people do compare her to Rome, because that's how Rome fell. It fell from the inside out because a lot of the foundations of Rome were being destroyed. Yeah.
What about your friends or your family in Black community? Like, are you only the one like conservative, or your friends pretty much have the same opinion? What's?
For the longest time, I was the only conservative in my family. Yes.
Okay.
Even with my close friends. Recently, my sister has come around and she's more conservative in her views, and we agree a lot more on things now. My older sister. But since I became politically aware, red-pilled or conservative.
How many years ago, or when was it?
It was 2017. So this is about 5 years ago now.
Okay.
About 5 years ago. I was only conservative, and it was hard. It was hard because being a Black conservative is seen as like an oxymoron. You're not supposed to exist. You're either a Black liberal. Yeah, you're not supposed to exist. You're either a Black liberal leftist or you're nothing at all.
So you will be treated badly in the community?
Yes.
Oh.
I think I believe this is common for any group of people, but specifically for Black Americans, we have a thing called the Black identity, which means that if you don't act, talk, or believe a certain way, you're not really considered Black. So for Black conservatives, we're not considered real Black people because we don't think a certain way. So yes. So, I think whites, Asians, and Latinos have more leverage in what they want to believe, and they're still considered part of the group. But as far as like Black conservative, if you don't support BLM or the racist narrative or the white supremacist narrative, then you're not considered really Black. So, and that's how they insult you. They either call you Uncle Tom, you're a bootlicking, Black guy, you sucking up to white people, all kind of really bad names. But I think that's because a lot of the white liberals and so-called Black leaders have taken a narrative that unless you think a certain way, you cannot be a Black American. So sadly, they have robbed that image of Black people. So it's been rough. Yeah, you do get a lot. I get a lot. Actually, I've gotten a lot more hate by minorities and Black people for being conservative than I have whites. And part of the reason why I also became conservative is because most of the struggles I faced were actually from my own group, because we have very much a crab in a barrel mentality.
What crabbing?
In a barrel. Basically, when a crab tries to leave a barrel, the other crabs will grab it and drag it back down. So if a Black person is trying to improve their life, speak proper English, get a good education, get a good job, you're seen as, oh, you think you're better than us? You know?
So it's other than politics too?
Yes.
Oh,
It's politics and culture, but politics is downstream from culture, so, but yeah, even if you don't think the same or you're trying to better your life, there's always trying to pull you back pretty much. So you're not black enough, you're not really down with the brown, as they would say, but yeah. But yeah, I've had a lot more difficulty with my own people for my views, yeah.
Wow, so then for you to speak up and make YouTube videos and talk about your own thoughts, belief, it's very huge deal.
Yes, yeah, yes. A lot of pushback, a lot of hate, a lot of people saying I'm deceived and I just want to be white and all these other kind of stuff. Yeah.
What would you say to them, or how do you overcome these attacks?
Me, I just try to be as patient as possible with people. I understand that, I used to be in that mindset too. So I gotta understand they haven't heard another viewpoint, because when you live your life boxed in like that, we haven't heard the other side. It's easy to want to attack something. But I would always try to tell people, try to understand what the person is trying to say. If you disagree, you disagree. But at least try to understand why the person thinks that. How did they come to that conclusion? I would try to, be as, mature as I possibly can, because also how you react to these stuff also affects how people receive your message. So also trying to be as mature, try to outline my problems as much as possible, my viewpoints as much as possible. But at the end of the day, if they don't, they still hate me, whatever, just dust off your shoulders and move on. There's not much you can do, So I just pray that at least if you don't want to at least come to what I think is true, at least consider why we do think that way. You try to understand people before you try to criticize them, Yeah.
Is there any advice for people who wanted to convince or try to explain, try to give opportunity to see different view? Like how would you do?
Advice to a person trying to convince other people?
Yes.
I would say do your research. Know what you're talking about. Read books, look at commentators, because you have to know without a shadow of a doubt what you believe is true. And then when people ask you, okay, where did you get this info from, you can lead them to your sources, because a lot of conservative views are based off facts and statistics and stuff like that. Another thing I would say is don't go out trying to look for battles. I think people get too caught up in trying to argue with people. I don't want to argue with anybody. I just want to have a discussion, I think if we could sit down and have a good conversation and exchange ideas, I think we'll make a lot more progress in trying to win an argument, because it's less about looking for truth and more about I'm trying to beat you in a debate, So I wouldn't go out there trying to look for fights, but try to reason with people. Understand that people are not going to like you, and you just have to accept that fact. But how you respond to the backlash also says a lot about your character, because if they can't argue your points, they're going to attack your character. So you want to make sure that you're walking with integrity, so carry yourself with dignity, know what you're talking about, but also don't look for fights, and just be as truthful and honest as possible. And whatever the result you get, but just continue moving on and doing your best to trying to enlighten people.
Okay, thank you.